We are being recorded, FYI.
Do this.
Yeah.
I feel like we're our own little club down here.
Right down her alley.
I
She's
don't think
doing
Brenna's
great.
coming. Kristen's coming.
Beth, are you the right person to ask about this room? Okay, because I'm happy to discuss. I just didn't know who to contact.
Asshole. Did you get one of those?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, we know.
You know, I have so little respect for
What'd you get?
anonymous people.
What is it? Oh,
Did you get one of those?
no. I don't think so.
Might be in your, might be
Yeah.
in your box.
No.
It was mailed to my mailbox.
Good evening, Your Honor.
Well, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. Made a mistake. I went out and worked out this afternoon.
You're supposed to do the opposite. I wonder if they get to have softball tonight.
No, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah, so I mean, it's the same thing.
I wouldn't be out there with
Becky, are they
an
having softball
I
tonight?
wouldn't be out there with
Or
an
did it
aluminum
just-
bat.
Crap.
Oh. Oh, it's just drizzling, but the lightning was.
A little lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were swinging a bat around.
No.
Oh,
No, I don't know if lightning.
And it's
if
playoffs?
Aluminum attracts lightning or
no,
not.
not yet. It got put. Oh. Yeah. I didn't hear otherwise.
I hadn't heard.
There she is.
Hey, Kristen.
I can scooch over. We don't have Brenna tonight.
I think. Is Ms.
Do not believe Brenna's coming.
Kristen
Yeah, I think she
Warren
said she
coming?
could.
Yeah, she's made the comment at the board meeting Tuesday.
What, did she be late?
No, that she
No,
couldn't
she
come
wasn't,
to this.
she wasn't gonna make it. Yeah. Y'all fired up there? For your stuff?
Just had to wait on the husband.
Do the kitty.
Do the small.
You're here.
Just exhausted.
You guys ready?
Yeah, when you are.
All right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call this work session to order, dated Monday, July 26, 2021. It is 6:30. Roll call.
Trustee Black.
Here.
Trustee Dallison. Here. Trustee Joswick.
Here.
Trustee Moreland. Trustee Politis. Here. Trustee Cesaro.
Here.
And Mayor Tarkington.
Here.
6 present, 1 absent.
All right, if we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. All right, we're gonna open up with our Cinnamon Heights discussion. At this time, I'd like to allow the public to come up and address concerns, questions, comments, anything you want to say. Please just state your name and address for the record. And we'd also like you to submit a written your written questions so that we have time to answer those and have them in writing as well. If any photocopies need to be made, I'm happy to take care of that for you. Do we have anybody? Ron, you got nothing? Come on.
Just ideas about who you're going to deal with that are in there. Should you decide to move forward with this, there's lots and lots of.
We need you up
Yeah, come on up. I want to hear this. Yeah.
I'm not here to vote one way or the other for it or against it with regard to that, but just tell you if it is what you want to do moving forward, there are lots and lots of tools available to you. USDA, rural development will be there. That'll be on the low end of cost. With regard to that, a gentleman named Dwayne Dale, offices in Cortez, that are going on. There also is an effort by the Economic Alliance to help make these things happen. They have a bucket full of tools that are going on. And then don't forget the people that may seem a little offbeat, and I'll just use your 2 local banks that are going on in there. They have a reason to want that to happen as well, because when people can live here and dwell here and work here, it keeps them here, and that's good for local businesses, be they the bank, be they the grocery store, be they whatever. So if that's where the path takes you, that you see, yes, this is something we want to do, don't be afraid to reach out. I'll help as much as I can. Certainly, they're going on there with resources, but Mike and Emily, the group at the Alliance, are working on this wider than just you, Ignacio, Durango, La Plata County, that are going on. So please don't lose sight of those resources. It's just my encouragement to you.
Great.
And for
Thank
the
you.
record, that was Ron Donovan.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Do we have any other public comment? All right. Seeing none, we will move on. Katie, SGM site plan.
Yeah, so reached out to SGM. SGM, we did an RFQ for a town engineer, and SGM was selected out of the submittals that we received. So that's a recent request for proposal. I asked SGM about what it would cost approximately to engineer the site. Keep in mind that just like we require a lot of commercial sites to engineer the site, have a drainage study, all these things I think we should also be responsible for in property that's going to be for 30 workforce housing units. So we would look at surveys, town water and sewer extended to each lot, all remaining utilities extended to each lot, electric, natural gas, telephone, internet conduit. Keep in mind that's what we're looking at for broadband costs, and that's going to be the most expensive part. So why not do it in a 30-lot development that we can plan for it? Obviously, TV cable, if that's still an option. Driveways plus parking spaces, stormwater collection and detention. Other items such as signage, parking stops, sidewalk cuts, et cetera, and estimating the quantities per unit cost. And when you have an engineer estimate the quantities, they're going to tell you, how many yards of gravel you're going to need, how many yards of fill dirt, how many yards of asphalt, all the cement, all those quantities will be estimated for you so that you'll at least have some idea of what you're looking for. Whether you develop a portion of the 30 lot area or you develop, all 30, at least you would have some idea of what those costs would be. And I would certainly ask SGM to do every street access separate, so we at least had some of those quantities in mind when you move forward. The other thing that the site plan can work on is irrigation system. I have been approached by or informed by Cinnamon Heights, the HOA, that they cannot get their irrigation water. They pay for their PRID shares. And then Sunrise Estates, I was approached, Bob Vaughn has been working with Sunrise Estates to access their irrigation water. They are also paying, excuse me, I'm gonna let somebody else in. They're also paying their PRID shares, but unable to get to use the irrigation water. So this may be an opportunity for us to work on a site plan. The most important thing is working on stormwater retention and the quantity, so at least you have an idea of what you are going to do with the site. It's not going to be any different. The townhomes are still going to be townhomes. That's not going to change. But that's quite a site to just guess on just doing one townhome at a time, because you're still going to have to deal with stormwater. Kind of like your input on that item.
I was having some trouble with my computer and I was trying to get it going and I wasn't really listening to what you were saying, but I did hear you say something about the developments up there can't access their irrigation water? Is that, or maybe I misheard that?
They have PRID, and they are paying an annual assessment,
Right?
but they cannot access their water. And
Yeah.
this came from Bob Vaughn, who, from what he told me, he has received about $5,000 from Sunrise Estates to work on researching the fact that they can't get their irrigation water.
Well, why can't, I mean, just physically they can't get it?
Physically.
Okay. And there's something wrong with the irrigation ditch, or probably
I'm not good. Physically, there's something that they cannot
something
access
wrong.
that.
Yeah, okay.
And the Cinnamon HOA, Janet O'Bannon, when I was talking to her, that was her same. She let me know that they could not use their PRID irrigation water either. And with these 30 lots, we received PRID shares as well.
Did you have a question? You'll have to step up here. State your name. Yeah, you were raising your hand.
My name's Phil Abbott, and I live down there in Sunrise Estates, and I've been there probably 12 years, 13 years. We had water the first year, and we hadn't had it since then. And I've been dead set against putting money into a basement, because you know, I've worked my whole life. And so it's not anybody's fault, it's just something that happened, because I think everybody forgot that it gets cold in the wintertime, and it does freeze, pipes freeze. A friend of mine was doing a fence. We found 3 breaks from the road to back where the fence was gonna stop. And that wasn't because of his digging or anything, it was just frozen pipes, and that's our biggest problem, is frozen
Well,
pipes.
So say like Clover Meadows has an irrigation system for, I mean, they get town water, but then they also get irrigation water for their lawns and gardens and that sort of thing. Is that what your situation is up there, is that you have irrigation system put in, but it froze?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it froze, I mean,
or cracked?
I've seen
Yeah.
cracks and We're not in earthquake zone, so I know it wouldn't cause an earthquake.
You didn't get up and jump on it, huh?
So, I mean, if,
I didn't. Somebody might have.
so, I mean, if the town can figure this out, it could be a win-win for a lot of the residents in there
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Well, win for us.
Yeah.
I don't care about a lot.
Thanks, Phil.
I know Brenna's not here, but I'm gonna ask the Brenna question. I don't know if you can maybe discuss the funding for the engineer services?
So the funding would come from the same place where we purchased the lots from the sewer fund. We budgeted an additional $1 million to manage that. Keep in mind that, let's just say that it costs us $1 million in 2021 to do 30 lots. Then each one of those lots has a base cost about $33,000. So in other words, when you get ready, if however you finance it, however you build it, you're going to assume that you have an additional $33,000 in each lot invested, basically not only to purchase the lots, to do the engineering, and at some point there'll probably be an additional cost to actually improve the lots. However, that's not something that would be spent in 2021. Based on the amount of needs of engineering there, we're looking at about a 6-month process. So from about August to about the end of January said it would take. So it's not an engineering project that's gonna take, a couple days and you're building in September. It'll take you about 6 months for the site plan engineering to work out all these things. I have a feeling that your irrigation, if you decide to do a working group on that, could take much longer based on all of the water law in Colorado and dealing with trying to be part of the community and trying to. We're not going to take over anybody's water. The goal is to figure out how we can assist that development and the community to use irrigation water, because that's far more beneficial to use irrigation water to take care of landscaping than our potable water.
Do we know what the fees are for what the homeowners are currently paying for their water share?
Bob told me it was $100 for his PRID shares.
Annually.
And annually, that's correct.
Is that one owner?
That's one owner. That's one in Sunset,
Holy cow.
Yeah.
in
That's a lot of-
Sunrise Estates.
That's a lot of expense for
Yeah,
not
for
For
getting,
not having,
for
yeah.
not having it available to you. I mean, I know we pay on the Schroeder ditch, our shares run about $100, if I'm, maybe a little more.
Well, I mean, I pay
Yeah.
Fred $100 every
Yeah,
year.
I pay Prid $100 too.
Right. But then I pay the ditch and then I pay
And
the
then I
other
pay the ditch, and then I pay the ditch too, yeah.
Right.
But if you're not getting access to the water, that's problematic.
Well, yeah, but that's not. Fred's fault.
But that's not our issue in the sense that, the homeowners that are entitled to that water need to exercise their rights, I guess.
We will be paying an assessment come 2022 for the
But-
30 lots.
But, and to that end, we want to make certain that those 30 lots have their access to that water.
That's correct.
And to that end, if we can make certain that the other Cinnamon Heights lot owners have their water as available as well, that's so much the better. Now then, of course, going further east there in Sunrise Estates, that's always been an issue. And I don't know that water issue there is necessarily so much a frost issue as it got screwed up when Cinnamon Heights got developed.
I'm not saying that we're going to solve everybody's problem. I'm saying that we work at maybe a working group as a community to see if we can't work together to identify why they can't get irrigation, why we can't, the Cinnamon Heights, those 30 lots, or the remaining Cinnamon Heights development cannot get their irrigation water.
And I know that's a discussion coming up next on the agenda. I just wanted to go back to the site plan engineering. We're not making any decision tonight. It's just a discussion that we want to have, but it's definitely, I think it's the right direction. We got to go in this direction to get it.
Carol had a question.
Oh. Step up to the mic, Carol.
Carol McWilliams, 4334 County Road 509. It's not a question, it's a comment. I've lived here a long time, and it's taken me a long time to get some understanding of the water law and PRID and the ditch companies. And my understanding is PRID's only responsibility is to maintain the dam and let water out of the dam. And there are the ditch companies. I presume it would be either the Schroeder or the Los Pinos that the town gets its water from, that are responsible for getting the water from the river to the water users. And so they have their own assessments separate from PRID. And so the question would be whether those assessments have been paid, whether it's an issue with the ditch companies or, like Mr. Abbott was saying, a problem with the construction of the infrastructure in the subdivision.
Thank you.
That's a really good point, Carol.
Would you like to be in our working group? We'll save you a seat. So I don't, is that something that's going to be up for vote on in our next meeting?
That's correct, and I certainly would like any input that you have at this meeting, so, you know, we either know what other questions you may have, or, you know, what are the things you'd like to add. Am I missing something?
Well,
Do you
and
want it done sooner? Do you want to take longer?
No, I think that's a good timeline, but I'll just tell the board I was in on the interview with the SGM, and I think the reason we went with them is because they can do all of this. They do not have to outsource any of this work, and it's, I mean, I think Jeremy can attest to that. So I think I think that's a good timeline. It gives us a lot of time to.
Yeah, totally.
Katie, with some of the funding sources we've been talking about, are there any limitations on timing as it relates to any kind of money that might be available for this project?
There have been housing funds available for years and years and years. There are more funds available because of the ARPA funds that have been made available. However, as you are aware, we're still waiting for guidance from the Treasury Department on those final guidance. But the state of Colorado also has additional funds. You've heard your local banker talk about their interest in assisting. USDA has been a long time funder for housing projects. All of those come with certain caveats, and at the time that we get close to funding that project, I'm definitely going to bring a little pros and cons of each funding source.
Okay, so there's no con to this taking maybe 6 or 8 months. There's no
It
funding.
is not.
Okay, just wanted to verify that. Thanks.
Okay, I think, is the board good with that direction? And then we can move on to talking about forming a working group regarding the irrigation.
So the working group, I believe, would be kind of an invitation to others to be involved. We may have our Public Works Department involved. It may be, I think that it'd be important that one of the elected officials on this board participate. And I got Josh raising his fingers. I think it'd be important to, you know, collaborate. We're not going to take over. We're not going to. I think just as a neighbor, from neighbor to neighbor, looking for that. Bob Vaughn is very interested in participating, and he's done a lot of research to date about the water that's available. Obviously, he pays his $100 every year. He says he'd like to know more about it. And then, you know, discussing with Janet O'Bannon, she's the HOA I want to say director, I'm not going to get the title right, but she would certainly ask her board for somebody that would participate, you know, and making sure that we're inviting. Is it the Los Pinos? Is it PRID? PRID's probably going to say, well, you just keep paying the assessments, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But somehow there's a conveyance system. We also have a name, Mr. John Rolfe, as well, that have been given. Mr. McMillan, Grasshoppers, he's also stated that he has, says that there's more to know about this than, you know, so you get them all in the room, and I've heard a lot of, what do you want to call, stories.
Yeah.
And they somewhat conflict, but you get them all in the same room and maybe figure out, you know, which direction. It basically is, does air everything out, so.
Great.
Ron has his hand up.
Oh, Ron, go ahead.
Ron Donovan, 4162 County Road 516, more importantly, TBK Vice President, that's why I'm here. Carol is correct with that. Let me just give you a couple of people you may want to put in your working group that are in there. Mr. Ken Beck is the director of PRID. Very approachable individual, very knowledgeable about water that are in there. I happen to, like Carol, have lived here a long time and finally figured out some of water. This is my best help to know a little bit about the lay of the land for that. There was water put in Bayfield Reservoir as a holding area to irrigate the ground that will gravity flow out of the bottom of Bayfield Lake, if you will, down the Pine River drainage. And if you notice, the river falls very quickly and the ditches fall slower. They go away, and so they travel at a much slower grade. That made the irrigatable acres to do that. There was water stored for storage water, if you will, and that's something Katie will be very familiar with, storage water and on-call water and firm water and all the things you guys talk about that are in there. The water that was put there was for agricultural irrigation, and as the town grew and took in lands, if you will, that were farms, became part of the town, that made the water available for you to put through the treatment plant and give people drink and flush their toilets that are going on. But from a very base level that's in there, the way the farmers are charged and the way that you probably would be charged, I think everybody's the same for PRID, is it's $100 for the first acre of land that you have to irrigate. And then it's a very small fee for the additional acres. Thus, the farmer doesn't pay $100 per acre per year. He pays $100 for the first acre and about a quarter, about 25 cents an acre for the others.
Oh.
Thus, he can pay his irrigation bill. That is to store your water in Bayfield. If you want to drive your car up there, if you have a lot in Cinnamon Heights, you want to drive your car up there with a bucket, you're welcome to get your water there. Ken will not stop you from doing that. You paid your $100 to store your water, but we all need to get it there a more convenient way. Thus, we dump it down the river, divert it down a ditch, and the ditch company is an organization that sells shares. It's a corporation that sells shares of space in the ditch to deliver your water to your property. All the ditches have different fee schedules. They have different amounts that one share will carry 1 acre-foot of water on some of them. Some are 3 1/3 shares. Some are 100 shares to carry a foot. They all have their set of rules that are going on. So whatever ditch serves the said subdivisions you're talking about, I would invite their people to your working group. And that way they can speak to, it's not a problem. We'll deliver it to the pipe that's not working. You have to figure it out from there, or yes, there's a problem. The diversion to you will not work. Gravity won't work for us or whatever. They're not going to pump it to you. But that's some people that would be a really good resource in your working group to do that. The other that you might think about doing, there's a lady, and if you want to talk to Ken, he can, names are escaping me right now. She's very knowledgeable in the priorities. Ditch companies are old, some of them very old, but nobody with any ditch company really has a lot to do with anything other than the rights to the water. And this is the Colorado cliche, if I can share that with you. First in time, first in right. So if you were filer number 1, you are ahead of everyone else, no matter whether they're a city, a county, a farmer, or whatever else. You are, when it's down to that much water, it's yours. If there's enough for filing 1 through 100, all the first 100 people are happy, and number 101 is very disappointed, okay? If you invite those type of people to a working group, you'll find the legalese of water will clear themselves up fairly quickly, and I think you'll find some solutions to that. I'll stop short of trying to figure out how a pipe got frozen or whatever, other than just put it too shallow. But that said, if you can figure out how to get water to the boundary, I think you can figure out how to deal with it within the subdivision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment pertaining to Cinnamon Heights? Speak now or forever hold your peace. No. We're going to go ahead. Katie, do you have anything else to add to that?
I don't have anything
Oh.
else to add. My guess is I see that Josh raised his finger, and I know that Lori would also like to be involved in some of these housing meetings. So, you know, it may be something that you have you appoint, select a member to the group. Maybe there's an alternative, or maybe that you select two, so at least that there's good information about that's coming back to the board on this will take a while.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, we're going to switch gears and move into our budget work session for 2022. It's reviewing our 2021 goals. That's on page 8. All right, how do you want to tackle this, Katie?
So we will tackle it by basically going through some of the goals that we set last year. The finance department, we started out with review and update the chart of accounts and update 2021 allocations. Well, we've done that. We've had a couple snags in the process, but we are working those out. So I would have to say that we're going to go through this list and we're going to find some things that we've done. Ensure no duplicates of vendor services. We seem to have, we've got a new finance director and we're working through that. I think that we've seen some real successes, and we've just be patient with basically getting everything back online. Review and update the expense allocations. We have been working diligently to update those allocations. Right now we have what we call an admin fee that we're charging basically back to the enterprise funds, fees that come from the admin office. And then also I've been going through those allocations kind of as they come to me and making sure that they're correct. So that has been something that we've worked on, even through some of the drama that we've had this year. We continue to working towards electronic records versus paper. You may remember that we had a Bayfield sanitation district at one time. All of those records are all electronic. We are very close to getting all of our old land use applications electronic. I should say they're electronic, but they may not be in a manageable order, but we had made a lot of progress. And I would have to say that Jill has been really good at kind of reorganizing and making sure that things are in the right place. So she continues that. And with our reorganization, your Marshall's secretary, she's also working on that as well. So that's been good to add that extra hand. I am not going to speak for the Marshall's office, and he had a great day off today. So he's got family in town. So we'll get to him at a later time. Parks and Recreation. It looks like Becky will be back on Thursday.
Go home.
Still an old note there. Continue to work and develop online applications for park rentals and special event applications and registrations. And maybe I'll have Becky speak to that. That we've done a lot in a year.
Yeah. So before the.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a couple.
All right, so before the pandemic, everything in terms of youth adult registrations, special events, even park rentals, they were all just paper copies, just people turning in hundreds of copies of papers every day. Now we have our rec software, so people are able to register online for all of our sports. And then for the special events and the park rentals, we've created PDFs where people are able to fill them out online and things like that and email them to us. So the programming doesn't allow us to do special events on our rec software, but it will allow us to move into facility use rentals.
So the next one, let's work towards achieving the next phase in the conceptual park design plan. Well, we got sprinklers, irrigation system in,
It was number one, and it's done.
so,
Do we need to reseed that or overseed it?
We are going to get more seed. We're going to do that in the coming weeks with all the monsoons, so it'll help out a lot.
so provide staff with a working environment that fosters professional growth.
So the only thing that, well, I guess we registered Mark for playground safety, learning how to just do playground safety and repairs and things like that. So
And that's a certification or just a class or?
it's just a class through CIRSA.
Oh.
Seek and provide programming and or events that adhere to the changing demands of COVID-19.
Not sure if it was really COVID or if it was the soccer field renovations, but, you know, we did adhere to trying to get spring soccer underway by using multiple parks. And we're going to do the same in the fall. We're working with the school district and we're going to actually use some of their fields. So in terms of that, spreading people out. So obviously the 4th of July, but we didn't really have to deal with it in the end. So in the end, I think everything kind of cleared up before our program started up again. So.
Thank you, Becky.
Yep.
So next we have Public Works. We'll get Jeremy up here. So maintain full staffing levels and reduce turnover.
So actually, we have finally a full staff department. You guys did prove an additional position. We've hired him. His first day, Mr. Corey Griffiths. Yay, he's made it through about 9 hours so far, and then we're going to let him go home. Number 2 on the top 4 goals is cross-train with departments and reduce compartmentalization. We've been working through that. We're trying to get additionally certified operators and work a few additional people into plant operations. I think last year we identified that there was a slight issue with some compartmentalization and some specialization. So we're trying to work people through all the departments. Might not be their primary objective in their job description, but I think everybody should be exposed to all aspects of public works. Number 3 is improve the image of the department overall, externally and internally. We did have some negative feedback, I think, from when I first started, overall with some of the customer service experience, I would say, within the department, and I think we've done a really good job turning that around over the last couple of years. We really didn't talk to anybody during COVID. We kind of stayed in our little bubble. But anyway, I think we're doing great moving towards that and continue water and wastewater state certification. So we really are encouraging all of our employees to continue to achieve higher advanced certifications for as well as for town compliance. But I think just overall job performance and satisfaction. You guys got any questions?
So now our town clerk, Kathy Cathcart, and the next set of implement a records retention process and disposal.
Well, we've done that. We have a process and we have gotten rid of a lot. And we have created a retention, we follow the retention policy. And then, so we have done that. Participating in Cassell training, I think we're finally at a point where it would be beneficial. We have a good solid staff. We're all in good places. I think now's a good time to start moving forward with that. And the Cassell annual training will be in October, so I'm hoping to get some of us to participate in that.
Is that an online
This year,
training?
it's gonna be, I believe this year is still gonna be virtual. And next year we'll get to go, you know, to their conference. We can ask for them for training to come to the town hall. And so we'll see if we can't work that out too. So, move forward with express bill pay for customer access to their billing. And we have done that, and it's been working for a few months now, and it seems to be working really well. And every month we have just a few more people sign up, and so that's going really well. And help, I think we finally have help.
Reorganized.
So,
So on the town manager side is improve the personnel management system and communication. We've done some changes. We moved a lot of the personnel HR up to Rachel. And so we were doing some improvement, and Rachel, as detailed as she is, she's taking that another step forward. There's a lot of laws that we have to follow in the state of Colorado regarding, advertising the range of pay, equal pay for equal work. There's all kinds of things that we need to do, that we're moving that direction, and now it'll be training Rachel in some more of those duties, not only just the reporting part of it, but really knowing what the law is, and the law can change rather quickly as well. Complete a disaster preparedness and emergency response plan. Joe says that he has that ready to go with the annexes. He is hoping to bring that to the board, hopefully this fall. So we'll probably pick maybe a regular meeting that's not horribly crowded for your review, so you have to review it in open public session, and then adoption probably at a later regular meeting. So FYI there. Change utility billing system to second party with monthly newsletters. We do now have a full page bill that you get in the mail with a newsletter that comes with that. Thanks to Beth, she's put the newsletter together for us, or compiled our articles, and then also gets that out on Facebook and some of the other social media sites, and the distribution list that we have as well. So getting that information out there. And continue to revise the municipal code as inconsistencies arise. The other day, Nancy Dosdale and I were just talking about some of the things that we need to change, and we just felt like we just need to toss the whole land use code out and start over. But I said, well, we're not going to do that this year. So patience, because we do have some things that there's some inconsistencies. There's some areas where it doesn't make any sense that they only go to the planning commission, and then some of the more, I should say, insignificant things go to both boards. So we're just trying to figure out, what little changes we can make along the way.
Did you had a question?
yeah, it's just simple ones. Do I need to?
Yeah.
Lori Lazari, 1362 Kramer Drive. One, I hear we have the financial director, but I don't know his or her name.
That's Kathy Cathcart right here.
Oh, you are?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, congratulations. I sort of thought last time we had a meeting it was you, but it still says town clerk, so I'm confused.
I'm both.
She's both.
She's dual role.
Oh, okay. Yay. And then regarding the town hours employees are working, are we away from the COVID cut down of hours? Or are we working 40 hours a
We've
week?
been away for
For
quite
a
a few
long-
months.
Yeah.
Really? So we are at 40 hours a week?
Oh, we've been at 40 plus
Yeah.
through
For-
COVID.
Really? Okay. All right, that's all. Thanks.
So now we're going to go to the Board of Trustees goals and compile and for your initial list. So the broadband coordination with area agencies. I want to let you know that our coordination gets more complicated. The Bayfield School District applied for funding. We're trying to coordinate with them. We also are aware that the Southern Ute Tribe is also working on a Spark project, and that's SPARQ project. It's a little bit different paradigm on open access. I'm not going to explain it here tonight, but one of their engineers is going to talk to Clear Networks to talk about if there's some availability to basically go a different direction. And when our DOLA grant that was submitted, we were asked also to work with the Southern Ute Tribe as well and discuss this project. So we have a lot of discussions going on in broadband coordination. We also are aware that the county would like to do, my guess is use some of their ARP money for broadband infrastructure. So I think this is something that Southern Utes may need to pull in the county as well. So anyway, the Southern Utes are excited to see that Bayfield is doing what they're doing. But now you kind of have to back up and kind of put the brakes on and say, okay, well, what does Spark mean compared to middle mile, compared to the paradigm change? And I'm going to be very honest, I've learned to speak broadband over many years, but it keeps getting more.
Yeah, right.
The spelling is always interesting.
Could you explain a little bit? You said that DOLA wants the town to cooperate with the tribe?
They would like us to consider that cooperation. So
Okay.
I don't know really how to explain it shortly, but I'll try. And Jeremy did a much better job explaining it to me. So Spark would be a project where there's a lighted fiber, and the ISPs basically get to use that fiber within a mechanical system that allows them to access all the customers that are on the end of that fiber. It's different than the
Middle mile or
middle mile where you put a conduit in, you installed it, and then everybody, all the ISPs could put their own fiber in the conduit. So that's the
Is
change.
this more?
Jeremy's ready to-
is
Whoa,
this-
and I'll let Jeremy go with the rest.
Yes,
this more
Jeremy.
like a final
Well,
user?
So I guess the conversation that we had today was just a different take on open access that we're working on right now. So what we had decided to put in was initially one ISP service provider with additional capacity to be able to allow additional ISP service providers to be able to access the infrastructure as we built it.
Right.
What Spark is proposing is building a platform, kind of like a point of sale system that you would use for credit cards, that would allow all ISP providers, just for lack of better terms, it's the easiest way I can explain it, to be able to access their platform and offer additional internet services to all customers. So all the way from Ignacio to the Southern Union Reservation to Bayfield to Cortez, wherever that infrastructure was available. So we had a brief discussion today about some additional possibility of some capacity in our own infrastructure. We received a right-of-way permit today, basically asking for access through Bayfield through the same infrastructure that we already have in place. And so that's how this conversation kind of started. We're starting to get a little bit busy, but it was a really interesting conversation to have with them. And I think if we look into it a little bit further, it might add some additional options for residents. Instead of only maybe having the potential to have 2 or 3 ISP providers, you could have the potential to have 6 to 8 through the platform that Spark is offering. And I guess, access to the availability of additional customers.
So is Spark the initiative that the tribe started? Where did Spark
So
come?
Spark is basically Bonfire LLC. That's who's working with the tribe right now. And that's who's proposing the new internet business model, I guess you would call it. Rather than having everybody own exactly their own personal piece of fiber and conduit with the infrastructure that we're providing for open access, they're proposing a platform that would allow all ISPs to be able to access. We don't know any of the details at this time, but it was an interesting enough conversation that I think it's something that we probably should look at a little bit closer.
Can I ask another question that you might or might not have the answer to? Josh and I were out looking at things today, and look up on a pole, there's always, your different utilities up there. And going north on 502, is that right?
501.
501, there's, appears to be two fibers, or two lines of fiber on that pole. And then I also know that it wasn't that long ago that CenturyLink buried a conduit and lit that too. And that's all the way to Vicedo.
That's correct.
So I guess what we need to have, which would be really, really helpful, would be a map that would show us where fiber has been placed and who owns it. Because there's fiber everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know that
There's
we
fiber
even have
everywhere.
record.
And we have no clue whether it's lit, unlit, whether
I
somebody's
think
chopped
one of
it
the
up or
problems
what.
that a lot of these ISPs are having is it's all just individual pieces. None of it's all connected. So what they're proposing is by maybe using, or maybe by a partnership through multiple organizations for construction, that they could stitch together all these portions of fiber, and then you would actually have a more redundant system. So
Yeah,
that's,
and
that's one of the things that they're talking about as well, is finding out whose fiber it is, whose connection it is, if there's capacity, and then possibly leasing it to be able to connect some of these dots. Because, I mean, the town has a lot of fiber infrastructure as well that's not connected. It's kind of floating out there, and that's what the Deeply Digital project is that's coming up here rather shortly, is to try and connect some of those dots and then serve some of the north side of town. So there might be potential for some partnership, but those are some of the things that we'll be bringing back for your consideration.
But in the interim, is there any way for us to get a map from, some kind of a communications
With the Cogno?
oversight?
So the experience that I've had asking for that is that usually these are private firms, and that reaches into their competition. And so most of it could be commercial. Yes, you're going to know where the town conduit. We have nice maps up on our website where the conduit is, but we're still keeping up. We're still got to get Clover 7 in there. So there's some other things that that I've run into for Quest and US West and whatever they called themselves before that, AT&T, that they do not get that information out.
And yet they want us to work with them. That's the thing that I find
I can't-
puzzling. They want us to somehow or another connect to their system, but they aren't willing to share exactly how their infrastructure is placed or works at, even though we essentially give them rights of way within the community.
Okay, Spark.
So we will keep working on broadband. Proceed to next part conceptual plan development, which could include river access. I know the Planning Commission had talked about that. They would like to have a work session about land use and making sure that the code allows these events that bring people to Bayfield. They had, they talked about rodeo arenas. They talked about river access. There's some other things they talked about downtown, and I want to be very careful with them that they should work on land use policy, not some of the economic development positions that the Board of Trustees should work on. So it may be important, as I know you have the mayor and Trustee Polides is on that. You may, you have to kind of balance that I'm going to be very careful not to overstep the Planning Commission's role in land use and comp plan. There's nothing wrong with updating it, but to be careful there.
Where would the river access that's referenced here, where would that be? Do we know?
Well, I would say that would be a conceptual plan that you would determine.
No, I thought somebody had an idea of this wants to go here, but we got to do something about it. So that hasn't been
Well, the
determined
river
yet.
runs through Bayfield, so
Yeah.
anywhere along the river would
Kind of like
be
behind the senior center, behind the rodeo grounds, behind
behind the sewer plant, behind.
Eagle Park.
Eagle Park takeout at the sewer plant, and then a couple fishing docks
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Review culvert conditions provided by SMA. We are getting ready to do 3 major culvert relining. I believe they say they've signed the contract. We're just waiting to get it back from Institute Form. So anyway.
We got the signed crossing agreements back.
Yep.
So we should be good to go with early fall. We don't have a hard date yet, but that'll be coming here in the next month or so.
And then you will be looking at additional replacements for culverts, so we don't lose another road. Coordinate with CDOT to add east intersection to the 2040 plan. We did get it added, but it was added without funding. So that is one thing that we did do. Prepare a 3-year strategy regarding the Dove Ranch detention and drainage. I keep trying to contact Jim Corkin, and I'll keep trying. The Madonnas are well aware that we're looking to acquire their property, so.
I'm sorry, who's Jim Corkin?
He owns the portion of the property that you would like to do storm drainage on,
West
the
of
storm
Dove Ranch.
detention.
Yeah, okay.
The operations side, add a personnel, finance director is advertised in 2020. Well, we did that, and we've modified a little bit. Public Works Director Assistant, so we have an assistant. He started today. That's opportune time. Community Development Coordinator, your auditor is questioning why we're spending money on SEH for planning consultant work, and my response is that the SEH was hired and consulted with before, and yes, it may be up a little bit, but I've also been working on other things so I've kind of changed hats a little bit on that one. I'm not really too sure you're ready for a community development director. You may consider a best and brightest intern, maybe next year, mid-year. That may be something you consider. Those that will come up around, I'm gonna say March or April. Then we would have to be ready to hire about June or July of next year. So. And formulate a competitive salary plan. We do have a salary range now that we've put together, so at least we know where people fit. And of course, by law, we had to have that anyway. So it is now available. In order to offer competitive salaries, dig into assortment of utility billing fee structures. That's something we really plan to do this next couple months as we get ready for rate review. For any changes in 2022. And the last rate change that we had for water was 2018, so you have not done anything for 3 years. As you are aware, your recycle vendor, their contract is up at the end of the year, and I will be talking with Antoine to find out. He did want to make some changes at the beginning of this year. So you can see that you're probably going to get some changes in recycling. I guess my question to him is I would like to see if there can't be a rate for the small cart versus the big cart. I think there's a lot of people I see with the small carts that come out, every other week or whatever, that aren't big Amazon purchasers. And that's what Antoine's concern was, is that they're buying so much from Amazon that there was no place to put all the boxes that they had on their small carts. So anybody that would like to work with Antoine on that, then I'll just reach out to him and see what we can do. You have a 5-year garbage, and I know that we've had quite a few issues. They've had staffing problems, they've had dumping problems, they've had
Truck broke down.
They've had
Which time?
numerous issues.
And then the latch is not open.
There is a certain amount of increase that has been written into the contract. So we'll kind of see what that looks like. So you're aware of that. Income based accountability, land use, customer access billing, format billing. So we are charging now a fee for land use applications versus a deposit. And we are working with our new finance director basically to work on charging against that deposit, which has been an ongoing process for about a year. So we'll keep working on that. Certifications for all departments, training, support, resources, and accreditation. Obviously, continue to work on training. And accreditation is from the marshal's office, and they are working on that as well. I am aware of that. Of course, emergency preparedness plan, I already stated that Marshall McIntyre has that. He's just kind of waiting for a meeting to present that. It's going to be quite a few pages plus the annex, so probably be separate. Long-term downtown improvement, walkability and sidewalks, beautification, parking, landscape, and wayfinding. CDOT does have a grant, and I know Beth has been working on that grant to basically look at this first segment of Mill Street to do some handicap parking and widen those sidewalks, but it's still not a whole lot of money. So
Is that what they consider wayfinding?
No, wayfindings are signage.
wayfinding is signage.
So it's not in the spiritual sense.
I don't know what that is. All right. So this is now the time to vision. You've kind of seen where we've come in 2021, really in 7 months. So we've made a lot of progress. Hopefully we knock off a couple more of these, maybe not the long term, probably not access to the river by the end of this year. But knock off some other things in there. So what I would like to do is basically get from the board their vision and goals that you would like to see in 2022.
Go
Are we doing this out loud?
Sure, yes,
What,
hash it out.
I did have a question, Jeremy, and I probably should know this, what is our timeline for sewer plant improvements, expansion, updates? Where do we stand with that?
For actually expanding the capacity at the sewer plant at this time?
Yeah, when do we need to start improving the sewer plant?
I would say
on a
we would
large
even need to
scale?
really start even thinking about it for probably 15 years.
Okay.
I think the next big thing that's coming up as far as for sewer is collection system and putting together something for I&I. So our organic loading is right around 350, which is, maybe 50%, 40% capacity, and we just see a little bit of a spike in the hydraulic loading during irrigation season. So that I&I would be a big help, and I don't think we'll be looking at expansion of the plant.
Have you seen much of a bump in that I&I this year?
Yeah, it always comes up right about now, and we always see it with large storms too. So you can see those
So,
inflows
okay,
come
so
up.
you'll see it just
Yeah,
after the
so
day.
there's some of the storm drains somehow, or maybe through the manholes, I'm not sure where they are. But we see it during irrigation season, we see it start to spike up around June, July, and then as it comes off, we can see it drop as well. But the organic loading, the BOD, is really consistent. So if we can get a grip on the I&I, I think we'll be fine for some time to come.
So now that we're on sewer, let's talk about limits. What do we need to be prepared for in limits in the change of Reg 100 or?
All we know is that the state will be setting new nutrient removals for nitrogen and phosphorus coming out. We don't know what those numbers will be. We know that we're classified as a cold water stream, so they'll be a little bit more stringent than a warm water stream that you get further south. But we're still not sure what exactly those parameters are. And we've been working with Steve Omar and Plummer to develop a plan moving forward to meet those regulations as they come.
Our digesters would be able to handle those changes you would
Yeah, and our nitrogen's really low. We're at like a 1, so really what we're looking at is the phosphorus levels, and that's all going to be determined by the state. We're not sure what those numbers will be. Hopefully they'll let us know before 2027, but that's when we're really looking at having those new regulations come out.
So we do have an administrative extension on our sewer, permit. And do we know when we're gonna see those limits?
They should remain the same as we were before with that NDPES permit. 2027 is when they'll be releasing the new guidance for nitrogen and phosphorus.
While we're talking about goals, do we have any concerns about water and access to water? I know we've done a lot with our water management plan, and we've been looking at rate changes, but when Viaceto is so low, is there anything else? I'm not saying there is a problem, I'm just asking the question. Is there potential for a problem with access to water for those who are in the town paying for it?
So we have been in a court case to convert irrigation shares to municipal use. Since I've been here, 3 years?
It's been before.
Oh.
Okay, so it's been
Yeah.
4 years. So, and the substitute water plan that we asked them to implement, we were getting ready to use that. And in other words, that allowed us to use the water shares as if we had already converted them. But now it started raining at the end of June, and we're not at that place currently right now. And it looks like we may skate through this season. I guess that's all we have to do is get a substitute water plan, and it rains. So,
We won't get docked for anything as long as we don't make that call ourselves, right? Because
it's
there's
not
there's
docked.
certain, if we call for certain water, then we're gonna have a fee forever. Is that correct?
That's not,
For
that's
storage?
for storage, not necessarily for the substitute water
Oh,
plan.
okay. So those are different.
That's correct.
Okay.
Those are two different things. And the goal would be, I am aware that we have about 3 large annexations that are being considered of residential development into the town. So when you start annexing and you start creating more lawns and yards and toilets and everything that goes with it, then we still have to convert that water. If they convey it to the town during an annexation, we still have to convert that water. So this water adjudication may not end for the foreseeable future.
You say if they convey it, I thought they had to convey it.
There's money in lieu of.
Or money in lieu of, okay.
In the process of conveyance, as the parcels come in, is this an ongoing process with the court? So we're basically adding to the request or the motions for change? Or do those end up being separate cases and worked out through the water court differently? Just
Well, in my
curious.
experience, every share that you want to convert I think there's a couple shares that we're going to convert.
So that has
And
to
that's
be-
one case. You can't just keep piling another
So,
one
okay,
on.
Okay, that was the question, so we basically have to conclude each case as we're going forward.
Well, you can have
And
many cases going at the same
Then we'll
time.
have other cases that we engage in as
That's
we go
correct.
forward. Okay.
This is not cheap. And
No, I
we're-
understand water,
and we-
but the fact is that we need water, and whatever it costs to get it and maintain it for the town is worth
And the
cost.
current agreement is that we are paying for our engineer and attorney, and we are paying for Los Pinos's engineer and attorney. At the same time, we're paying for both sides.
Why?
I would have to ask this board. I don't know why that was the agreement.
That was before my time.
That was before my time. It's been going on a long time.
So since I really don't know what we're talking about here, is there somewhere I should look to find more information since decisions were made by this board that
Not this board.
No, I mean, by the town's board, prior to all of us, and when you're talking about this, I seriously have no idea what you're talking about, and I would like to have a little more information as to when you're saying it's in the courts, I don't know what that means. So is there a place to reference? Is there an open case? Is it a
Yes.
one-on-one with Michael? Like, what would that be?
There is an open case. We have hired a attorney from Denver that's specifically a water law attorney. I'd be more than happy to share that case information and the agreement that we had with the Los Pinos, that we would pay their side as well as our side.
And the reason some of us have a little bit more information than others is they've gone through mediation, and we've had water law mediators that have come and met with the ditch companies, and myself and Matt Nyberg and some of the others have attended those meetings. And you get the breadth of the issue and the exorbitant amount of money that's going into it as well. But congratulations, now you get to the bottom of it and come back and let us know. Because honestly, I don't know the beginning of it, but I know that I've sat through quite a bit of mediation.
Well, let's bring it back in. Let's talk about our goals, what the board
Okay,
sees for.
Lori Lazari again. You talk about that there's 3 big areas that we're gonna annex, and I don't know what they are. Gem Village?
No.
No?
These are just proposals. There is property that is east of Mesa Meadows. There is property that is north of the Conoco station. There is property that is actually just on the other side of the post office. There is property that is west of the Conoco station. There is property that is west of 501. There is property that is, I'm trying to think of the directions.
That's okay, so it's just areas that are really
Just really
part of the
close.
town.
Right.
That's
Okay,
correct.
so we're not annexing to the town. Okay, that's all I really wanted. Thanks.
I have a question, to get back to our goals. Jeremy, paving next year, what is the plan for, is there a plan for that? Are we going to be doing any, and what would that be?
What's that?
Paving?
Road paving? Yeah, and, also, we'd like to get back to surface maintenance as well. So we'd be doing some seal coats, some crack sealing, and then some paving as well. I think we'd probably start with the roads that have been identified through our previous engineer, and then we'll work our way down from there. So I think the worst street that we have right now is Tamarack, and then yours is next. Los
And that's
Pinos.
not because I'm on the board.
Yeah, I
Right?
know.
I just
But,
wanna make
actually,
everybody sure that-
when they did Mesa, they opted not to pave that portion because the water lines were
Right.
in disrepair and antiquated. So now that we have that water project done, that will move some of those other poor streets up higher on the list for
Yeah, okay.
resurfacing.
So can
Thank
I kind of help with a goal? Would you like us to come up with an assessment of the streets that need to be repaired or
helpful.
replaced, and the approximate cost with kind of a long-term street maintenance, street replacement? List?
If we're gonna do that, go ahead and put the trails on that too, because the trails asphalt is actually deteriorating faster than the roads because you don't have vehicles driving on it.
So what trail and,
Any trail. It doesn't make any difference. I mean, whether it's,
Are you talking about
bike paths,
over
anything
by
that's,
the-
anything that's a bike path that's paved, that isn't used regularly to be driven on, suffers because that asphalt doesn't get needed.
so what I would probably do is put those in 2 different categories because
Yeah.
they are completely different. Even though they're an improvement and there's asphalt on one of them, the project is a little bit different.
Well, and I think the funding would be different too,
Well, that-
wouldn't it? I
that
mean,
may be
when we
true,
did
too.
that tax increase here, what, 3, 4, whatever,
That's
5 years
correct.
ago, whatever it was.
You know, and I don't know,
But
parks,
that was for paving specifically, or maintenance.
sometimes I kind of feel like Parks and Rec ought to be in charge of walking paths through the town myself. Just, that's my feeling. So that if there was the ability to garner some extra funds from GOCO because that was the process, that would be helpful.
So I think we're gonna see some crossover from the department heads on their goals and what the town, when will we get the 2022 department head goals? Cause I think if we're talking about paving and roads, I think that some of that might be in Jeremy's goals as well, so I think.
So you have, so next, a work session, the August 23rd will be capital
Okay.
improvements. So you're going to get the capital improvements, that the department heads would like to have. The September 7th, during your regular meeting, we'll talk about labor and benefit expenditures. And then the work session, we'll have, on September 27th, will be department operations, and water, sewer, and garbage rates. So a lot of those will come at that time. I think what we want to make sure that we're addressing the board's wish list, and capital improvements, they're gonna have to determine what it is, what it costs, what year it should be done, or what range of years it should be done in. So that's taken some time, to put together, but you'll have a chance to review those.
Thanks. So just kind of trying to just focus back in, I mean, I'll go ahead and start. I will say, I envision in 2022 continuing our Mill Street revitalization. And I feel like our Mill Street is a heartbeat of this, one of the pulsing heartbeats of this community. And we did see some businesses struggle and make it through a pandemic. And I would love to see us continue to support our downtown businesses. I envision our block parties returning at full capacity next year. I think that's a go. And just making sure that we're supporting and beautifying our Mill Street. So I know we've had a plan, our downtown revitalization in the past. I don't know what that looks like. I know Beth is working on grants for that, but what that looks like to me, whether it's trying to lure some new businesses in, trying to, work with some more Airbnbs or whatever, just to try to get people to come and hang out in our downtown.
Madam Mayor, I remember maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago when there was an actual work group that met. And maybe it's worth, now that we have Beth, we have new people on the board, maybe it's worth striking up that conversation again too,
Yeah.
with those folks who had a vested interest.
So is housing going to be one of your goals?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that's,
no.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's like obvious, like on the radar.
Well, I'm looking for a verbal.
Well, that's
Yes,
that was
that's
kind of my
probably-
thing. I'm like, we have an awful lot on our plate as far as that goes, and I feel like, and maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but we haven't finished with the major ones that we wanted to finish, which were Dove Ranch and broadband. So,
Yeah.
and they monopolized a lot of our time this year, but I feel like they're probably going to continue to monopolize a lot of our time unless I'm misreading this.
You are correct. But that's where we're looking for your,
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I mean, obviously housing, continue our broadband plan, Dove Ranch, those haven't gone away, those are kind of still there. Dove Ranch, we did set ourselves a timeline for that, we have some,
so there was also a broader discussion about a stormwater
community-wide.
utility, stormwater.
Actually, as we think about that stormwater, because Josh and I touched on that today when we were talking about that Dove Ranch project up there. Because if that could be rolled into a community-wide project, that might be helpful. Don't know that it may work or not because of some of the elevations involved. But, at least we could have our engineer perhaps look at that possibility. going forward. I mean, it's worth the discussion if nothing else, because there's an awful lot of expense in the acquisition of that property down on the low side. And if we can avoid doing that and put that put that money into the expense of a genuine facility for detention and getting rid of the runoff that we have, because we still have an awful lot of runoff that's ending up in ditches. And every time it does, it causes a problem. So, like I said, maybe that's one of those things where, as we move forward, if we can at least give the possibility of putting that Dove Ranch into an overall stormwater drainage project, because like I said, that's gonna be a big expense in any way you look at it. If we're looking community-wide, I mean, it's not gonna be a couple $1 million, it'll probably be $10 million, and it'll be something that we're gonna have to bond for. But it would be something that we might wanna look into, because like I said, we already know it's gonna cost $1 million, give or take, for Dove Ranch. So why not look at the community in a holistic fashion?
So how would you prioritize, are we keeping broadband number one or housing? Where are we putting our priorities right now?
I'd put them both at number one. No, seriously. because,
Co-number
I mean,
ones.
they've,
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put these like 1 through 5, like their top priorities in equal.
right.
Housing, broadband, and stormwater.
Stormwater and then I&I. I think those go hand
Hand in
in
hand.
hand, you know.
And what I would like to get in the queue somewhere, and I realize that we aren't gonna do this next year because we got a lot on our plate. But I would like, at some point in time, to start thinking about improving the roadside park. Make it more than it is, and you know, it would be great to have something between Cortez and South Fork
Yeah,
as a roadside park, you know, where people can actually go and.
Are you talking about
you know, have a
restrooms?
picnic
yes,
and-
I'm like, that's on my list, restrooms at Little Pine or roadside, since we had so much trouble with our porta potties.
Right, and
So.
like I say, I'm not gonna try to push that for
Yeah.
next year, because we got enough stuff that
I mean, we
re-
could put that
really
on our
needs to be done, but long-term, maybe
radar.
like
Park plan.
2023.
I don't know that you would wanna push it out when you go down to there to the roadside park and actually see and watch the use that's going down there on a daily basis.
Yeah,
I would say that it's not something we can really push out much longer than 2023, and actually if we could get to it in 2022 and do some improvement down there, that would be a good thing. But that's that whole park through there, all the way,
CDOT,
yeah.
you know.
well, there are players here that,
Yes, they are players in that, yes,
you know,
that's
but
true.
I just wanna get that in the queue.
I have some more. Marshall McIntyre's not here, but I still want 24/7 security for the town, and I want our school resource officer back.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, I know that's a both
was gonna be a
school and
question.
us, but that's huge. The senior center doing updates to the kitchen, I think that's huge. I think making that more of a community center too, because we do use it for multiple events throughout the year. I think we could make that more potential, even teen opportunities. Little Pine was on there. Broadband, Mill Street,
How about the
Pine
farm?
I know. I'm like, that's a hard one. Because it's another big to do. It
You know,
really is.
with respect to the farm, I think that what we do is give them the moral support that they need to have. Basically give them the okay and make certain that they have the liability insurance that they need to have, and then let them have at it, let them do. That's pretty much gonna be their gig.
Well, I do
But
think
we
they're gonna
just-
need
but
some
they just-
financial support as well,
Uh,
a little bit. To get it done right.
If we need to
Well-
give them a little bit of financial support, yeah, I would consider that, but I want to see what exactly they're having in
Yeah,
mind.
exactly.
you
We
know,
need
they-
to-
Because there's been a lot of money spent down there in that organization already. I mean, that dome didn't come for nothing.
Yeah.
So you're suggesting that, the site plan that we have, the information that they've submitted is not adequate to get to the planning commission. And we talked a little bit about a landscape architect at our last meeting, because I think that we have, it's the town's property, either that or you subdivide it off
Can we
and you
sublet it?
and you let them figure it out from there.
Can we sublet it?
No, you sublet as a statutory town, you're required to do an ordinance, and it's 1 year at a time, so
Oh,
at any
okay.
time you can,
All right, well, that's a question. That's good to know.
so I just said the farm, is there anything that you would like to see, any goals, the town's goals, not necessarily their goals?
I mean, I thought we talked at the last meeting to just kind of look into what that looks like
Right.
financially, and then
Right.
I think we
And
can.
time-wise, so that we can determine if
Okay.
that is a potential or not.
Yeah, I mean, something as basic as, I mean, having gone down there and seen the property,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a little concerned as to how exactly they're going to do what they want to do down there, and I don't know what their plan is for that, you know, so I'd like
Right.
to see that. you
Well,
know, I
that's
mean,
what's been hard is the plans that we have gotten, it doesn't
They're not
answer all the
working.
questions. It's
Right.
very,
Right,
yeah.
that's,
And,
I've just-
and you're requiring developers to do quite a bit to provide in going through the process of use by review. We're going to have to do a zoning amendment, a use by review more than likely, and then a site plan, because it's not a residential location. So there's some funds involved, and it's not their property, it belongs to the town.
right.
There's a barrier here that they're having trouble crossing. If maybe that's a sign that you don't go ahead with it and you wait till they're ready, you know, that's up to you.
So I've got another question about that whole deal. Do we have any rights to the water on that ditch that's running through that property?
From my understanding, yes.
Okay,
We do?
We have some priority 2 rights on the main ditch.
okay, all right, that's
Really?
that's good to know. So
Yeah, that's super
those rights could be used to help water the farm, so to speak.
That's correct.
Okay,
And that would also be putting into a beneficial use.
right, right, absolutely,
The beneficial use actually
very
would help
important.
our adjudication case.
absolutely.
in the court.
absolutely.
I think it's a great idea. I just wonder how
Like I
much.
said, yeah,
we
we
can take
don't
on.
wanna run the whole thing and we don't wanna fund the whole thing, so. But
we
to
don't
get
want
it
to
here in
stand
our
in the way of it either.
right, to help
so,
get it here in
yeah.
our town, you know, I think it could be another good attraction, another good, you know, reason to come hang out in Bayfield.
So I am going to go to a site. Because this may be coming up this coming year.
And all we're talking about with, even, we had the long-term goals, those are still on the table for next year as well, because I think fixing the sidewalks is really
Huge,
key.
yeah.
So anytime there is something that's going on out there that we don't have an application for, we can share and have, you know, all the discussion we want. The day that it ends up in an application, then we have to do everything by public hearing. some of you have probably heard about this, is the arena, and it's not very clear, at the Pine Valley Church, which is, the large piece of property. And I'm gonna share this so that people online can see it.
It's TV.
Where the farmer's market is.
So this is an arena, a large, arena that would be, north of Dove Ranch. It is property that ends town, sorry, it's not very clear, but that is what it is. And there are quite a few, plans that are out there, and they are planning their own detention area, so that they don't increase the detention to Dove Ranch. So just so you're aware of that, that's pretty public, right now in their, congregation. But it's likely you may see this coming, for some type of,
Partnership, are they looking for?
no, they're not looking for a partnership, they're not looking for funding, they're not looking for anything, except they're
Stamp
gonna
of
have to
approval?
go, it is currently zoned residential, they will have to have it, rezoned.
I'm sorry, this is just FYI then?
Just FYI.
Yeah, okay.
I'm throwing things your way because the planning commission may go this direction. Looking for ways to increase arenas, river access,
So,
bringing people downtown.
Are you
From
putting the
there?
pieces together?
well, so that's what, yeah, so what is that, have they had discussion with the rodeo club in Bayfield as far as?
There are people that are on this committee, this Pine Valley Heritage Event Center, that are also on the rodeo arena.
So there's
Good.
perhaps a chance to get easy river access soon.
I wouldn't
We
call
gotta remember that once the rodeo, the association down at Joe Stevenson's not using that rodeo grounds, that property goes back to the school district. So it's not just as easy as us taking over that
Taking-
property.
Right, it's not ours.
There's a deed out there that says it's,
Schools.
as soon as it's not being used for the rodeo, it goes back to the school district.
So that wasn't part of the wetlands transition. Okay.
Oh, it's just having to deal with the school district over property down there has been a first-class pain in the ass since we have done it. And there's no other way of saying that. Because we have had to pay when there should have been a gift involved.
And if you go to pinevalleychurch.org, you,
Yeah, I
d-
saw it.
okay.
Yeah.
Pretty extensive,
Yeah.
visual there. Okay, well, future discussion.
That's what I wanna know.
I would stand between that, yeah.
That's right.
All right, what else? What else you got? Is that covered in our,
That seems like a pretty full.
it's a pretty full list.
agenda, yeah.
I mean, yeah, some will get chipped away at, some will, we'll have better direction. I think we'll know a little more. I do think that, Commissioner Salka has been super involved with the tribe, talking about that broadband discussion, so I think we have a good, someone going to bat and being in, on those meetings there.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah, if you wanna go ahead and step up.
Linda Abbott, 324 Star Crossing. What do you guys mean by river access?
So the idea is to have a better recreation area for the town of Bayfield. And so there's river access starting at Eagle Park,
Eagle.
going all the way to our sewer plant. But there's no real beach area, no place for kids to hang out, no place to float down the river, no fishing access. We would like to create a little more recreation utilizing the river.
Yeah, but won't that disrupt the wildlife and the ecology? That's what concerns me. You're gonna have more people down there tracing around, and I mean, it will adversely affect the wildlife and the beauty of what it is now.
I mean, that is not in my wheelhouse. I don't have that answer. I don't know if.
I mean, that's one of the nice things about Bayfield and the river. You can go down there and it's very peaceful and quiet, but if we develop it, it's not gonna be that way anymore.
This was a discussion that we've had. This was part of
Yeah.
our visualization for the future of Bayfield, in our section of the town.
Yeah, river access was like
It's huge up on the list.
Massive on the list.
Yeah, it just brings more, I don't want it to, I mean, Durango, I don't even like to go into Durango anymore. It's too crowded.
That's why we live here.
During this time of year, I stay out of it. I just don't want to see Bayfield be like that.
I mean, we do, our residents are, have you driven by the roadside park during the day, the heat of the day? I mean, that place is packed, and it's our local residents trying to cool off.
In a ditch.
Yeah.
Not the river.
Yeah.
I've done it.
And there's fences
So?
laying in the
Yeah.
ditch.
So it's just, it would just be another, something for our residents
Yeah.
of Bayfield. I don't see it being a, huge
You
attraction
wouldn't
when
see
you
it
have that.
attracting people
Well,
from other.
I don't see
You know, it's
Durango
not-
coming to hang out in our river when they have that
Well,
river.
yeah, but, I
It's,
mean,
it's not whitewater or anything. you know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Yeah.
like.
It'd be like a lazy river, just a place for families to cool off, have a picnic, and enjoy our town. Yeah.
yeah. Well, aren't you guys wanting to expand that and do something about that as well? In a very boutique way. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to have a hotel for people that are, on their way somewhere to stop off. and
Visiting.
Visiting family and friends in Bayfield, having a place, my
And that's in my
mother-in-law
super
stayed
long-term
downtown
Well,
vision.
at the
isn't there a
boutique.
hotel? I mean, there used to be one, but I don't think it's open now, is it?
No, it's apartment complex now.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not
something
even a
like
motel.
that would be.
Yeah, that's,
nice. For
that's my super
travelers.
long-term vision there.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
well, I was just, because I'm always concerned about the wildlife and the
Yeah.
ecology and.
So
No,
keep
but
in mind
things
that the planning
natural.
commission is going a different direction, so, they're meeting, they're gonna have probably a little work session at their next meeting, and they're on August 10th, and that master plan has a lot to do with the difference between wildlife, habitat, and access to the river for recreation.
Good to know.
So can we have it both ways?
Typically,
Yeah.
the Division of Parks and Wildlife is gonna ask that you make it both ways, but they
Yeah.
are they're the first ones that are gonna make sure that people get to enjoy the river as well, so.
Thank
But,
you.
yeah, there's groups around here, like Mountain Studies, that look at what's going on with the rivers and the wildlife and just the whatever's naturally there. So I'm sure there's a way for us to ensure that there's no, endangered species of spotted frog down on our river that we need to be careful of. Because, no, I think these are all things that need to be considered.
Definitely.
And I
That's
think,
what-
yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
willow
Yeah.
fly
Okay, yeah,
catcher.
so, good.
Yeah, the willow flycatcher were.
Cool.
And Little Pine Park has got all of the interpretive signs out there and the replantation of creating the wetlands that were conceptually destroyed during the bridge,
Right.
rebuild and all of that's all that same area.
So if somebody does like an impact study?
Oh yeah, it's like the Army Corps of
That's pretty
Engineers
typical,
and yeah, they all come through. You can't be hurting the critters. Fortunately, no.
So what do you have, Katie,
Get after
for
it, Dave.
a recap on our?
So this is what I have. I have the sewer plant. Basically, we are collecting now $5 a month per utility account or sewer account, for an I&I, for a hydraulic, removing the hydraulic into the plant. Nitrates we'll have to deal with when those limits are changed. I have water and access to the water. So in other words, talked about the municipal water versus the irrigation water and the adjudication, and Lori would like information on that as well. I have street maintenance inventory and priority list. I also have a trails maintenance and priority list. And keep in mind that we have $1 million from the federal highways to do the trail on Sour, Sour 501,
Yeah.
that kind of that area over there. I have Mill Street revitalization, and perhaps get the core group back together to do that as well. Housing development, Dove Ranch stormwater, broadband, stormwater, community-wide, the roadside park, adding restrooms, 24/7 security, in other words, law enforcement that is on 24/7, school resource officer hired back to the school, and of course the school district can't afford it right now, so
Yeah,
they're,
so
or I shouldn't say they can't afford it, but they said that,
They
hold
took it
off.
Yep, yep.
The senior center, dealing with a commercial kitchen and providing more uses, more community uses, and the farm. And of course, we are looking for time and cost for what the town may participate in that. That's what I have.
I'd add, you mentioned street maintenance list. I think we also talked about paving, a paving list too.
That's part of
That's
it,
part.
yeah.
Okay, I take paving as opposed to maintenance. I see those as different, but
An inventory,
That's fine, as long as you
repair and
know that-
replacement, yeah.
paving is part of maintenance, that's fine.
Yeah.
Katie, may I ask a question?
Yep.
The bike path that is from Buck Highway behind Mason Meadows going up to the school there, is that maintained by the town, or is that maintained by Mason Meadows?
So my understanding is it's maintained by Mesa Meadows.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's actually in their HOA, and they've contacted me about the noxious weeds, and I told them whether it's a wetlands or not, you can still manage the noxious weeds.
Was the senior center on your list? The kitchen
Yes.
and, okay.
Senior center, commercial kitchen, upgrade, and allowing more community uses.
Yeah, okay. That's quite the list.
Yeah.
It is.
All right. Do you-
Consistent, though.
All right, do we have any other requests, input? We have our tentative meeting schedule posted, on your agenda there. So mark off those dates. Just remember, we do have the Regional Housing Alliance meeting tomorrow at 2:00, if anybody would like to attend, it's right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll be
public
here.
is welcome.
We also have employee cookout Wednesday. You all are invited to that.
Pulled pork,
All right.
Lunch?
Lunch.
lunch.
And do we have any other?
Madam Mayor, a reminder that Wednesday is Ed Moreland Day
Oh, yes.
in Southwest Colorado, and Jackie will have set up in her driveway a collection box for food pantry.
Perfect.
And she was gonna bring one to the town hall.
That's
I-
right, she was gonna drop
I-
one off.
We would need one here to advertise it here.
Yeah, I'll circle back on that tomorrow.
And isn't what National Night Out, that's on the
August
Third.
3rd.
First Tuesday at 5?
And we do have a board meeting after, so you have a little time to
What's
go.
August 3rd?
It's National Night Out for the
The marshal's
marshal's
office.
office.
Oh,
You
okay.
can have a hot dog
Park.
before you come to this
board
wonderful
meeting.
meeting.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Brats or hot dogs?
So we are having a August block party meeting tomorrow morning at 9:00. We will be putting on a block party the 19th of August. That will be our only block party in 2021. And then there will be Heritage Days the last weekend in September. We have, we will offer the fireworks for at dusk for Heritage Days, and so far, the way we're getting moisture, we should be good. So, FYI there on a couple dates.
All right, do we have any other questions, comments, concerns?
Nope.
All right, good meeting. I will go ahead and adjourn. It is 8:10.
All right.
Thank you.
You know, when